So you're going to go to your overworld area. So leave the battle level if that's where you were last. So I'm going to go to my maps and go to my base map. And here I have the NPCs we were testing with. I also dragged some enemies out here. So I do want you to drag some enemies out here. Just remember that at this stage, we should have all of the animations and stuff working. So you should get rid of, if you had a placeholder or you were just using the character again, make sure you get rid of that. Make sure you actually have your enemies with their actual animations. Same with your NPCs, that all of that is there and that the number of enemies that you want to have is out there. I just like reskin the same thing. Like you can definitely do that. I just put it in Piscal and like reskinned it. You can do that. But I would suggest you need to have your two NPCs, and I would suggest having at least two enemies, just to make it more fun and interesting, even if you don't do a lot with the change in the animation. So in the content drawer, in the content drawer, you're gonna go to your character, to your enemies, and you're gonna open your base enemy class. And I'm going to have it open here, and we're going to add a component that I already have here, but I'm going to show you how to add it. So I have this little capsule trigger area. So you guys are going to click in the upper left in this base enemy and click add and search for collision. And you're going to add one of these collisions, and you want to pick the shape that's going to best fit your enemy. So this guy is kind of roundish, so I think I did a sphere. But if yours is more tall and like thin, then you probably want to do a capsule collision so that it will actually match them. You probably don't want to do a box because they're a character. But pick one of those collisions, and this is my collision. It normally says sphere, but I just renamed it battle trigger area, so it is just my collision, but rename it so that it makes sense for what it is. And this is the space in which if the player or character, like the player runs into the enemy, it's going to trigger moving to the battle. So you want it to be closely around them, like they're running into them, but you want it to be a little bit bigger on all sides than the capsule component, which is the blocking collision, right? Because you want them to hit it slightly before they get blocked by the character. So that's how you kind of want to format it. Now, if we go into our event graph, you are going to right click this battle trigger area, and I'll show you this stuff, and that's going to bring up this node. So you're going to right click your collision, add event, and add on component begin overlap. Mine's not here because I already have added it, but that's what you're going to do. So right click it, add event, add on component begin overlap. Remember, we're in the base enemy, that way all of the enemies have this code, so you don't have to rewrite it every time, and they all have that area. Okay, so then after you get this, we want to make sure that it's the character that's overlapping with the enemy, because it could be the floor, which is, what's actually going to happen at the beginning of the game. It could be another enemy if they're moving around. It could be an NPC. It could be a tree. So we don't want to trigger this unless it's the character. So we're going to check if the actor overlapping is a base ally. If it is our base ally, so if this cast succeeds, then we're going to continue. Otherwise, if it fails, we're just not going to do anything. So make sure you search for that cast to. Then we're going to get the game mode, search for get game mode. We're going to cast that to your world game mode or your non-battle one. So whatever you name that, that's not the menu one and not the battle one, but that world game mode. And then we're going to call this function, which you don't have yet, called load battle. So leave this open, and we're going to go into the world game mode. So remember, this is not your battle game mode, not your menu game mode, it's the other one. So this is the load battle function. To create this function on the left, you're going to click that circle with a plus and create a new function called load battle. And we're going to go through these pieces. So first, you're going to click on this and add an input over here, circle with a plus, and that input is called enemy actor, and it's going to be a base enemy type. And the reason why we want to get that, because we want to get the actor that they ran into, because we want to know which one it is, so we know which one to spawn in the battle level. So we're going to get that enemy actor as an input. And then we are going to cast to the game, get the game instance and cast to the game instance. We're going to search for get class off of enemy actor. So we're going to drag this out and say get class. And that class from the actor is going to be our battle enemy that we set in the game instance. So we're going to drag off of as game instance and search for that battle enemy and do set battle enemy, that's this node, and set the class of the enemy in there. Then we're going to destroy the actor that we passed in. We want to destroy that enemy because we're going to program this like a lot of RPGs, where whether you flee from the battle, whether you lose or whether you win, once you run into an enemy in the overworld, they're no longer there. Like, you come back and they're gone. So we want to destroy them, so when we come back, they're not there anymore. And then we want to open level by object reference. Now remember, this isn't going to work yet because we don't have the save system. Like, as in, like, we're going to destroy them, that will work, but when we come back, they're probably still going to be there because they're just going to reload. But we will be working on that. And then open level by object reference your battle map. So that's the full code for the load level. We do want to go back to our base enemy into this overlap code, and at the end here, so right, we casted it to the ally to make sure it's them overlapping, we casted it to the game mode, and now we're going to drag off of the game mode and search for that function. And to get this, we're going to search for self and get a reference to self, because that's the enemy actor that we want to give to the game mode as the one that we are. So this should now function. So let's test it out. So if you go to your base map and again drag out one of your enemies, one thing that I will mention, so if you go to your enemies and I go to like Evil Joe 1, he is going to have that battle trigger area, but it's going to be whatever I sized it in here. So if you have enemies that are very different sizes, that's totally fine. This inheritance thing will still work. You'll just have to go into that specific enemy and be like, let's say Evil Joe was like super tall, which he's not, but let's say he was, then I could come in here and I could specifically modify this trigger area for him. And have it be different for him, but the same for others, or like modify each individual enemy. If they're all exactly the same size, it makes it easy. You just keep it, whatever size you put in base enemy for it. But if they're not all exactly the same size, feel free to go in and modify it. So then I want you to drag your enemy out into the world. So we're going to grab like Evil Joe 2, whatever. We're going to grab them all and drag them out into the world. Evil Joe 3. I didn't actually set up Evil Joe 3's stuff, I don't think. How dare you? So this is kind of just showing when you create an enemy and you can come in and you can modify their variables, or like I can put in, oh, I don't have the anim sequences for them, so I'm not gonna do that right now. But that's only if you want them to move, that matters for the enemies. But you can come in and you can put all of their animations and everything. If you have attack for them, if you have death for them. And this is all the stuff we set up before. This is just, adding it in here. You can change their minimum damage, their maximum damage, like how hard they are. Change their HP and their max HP. So it could be like really tanky or not really tanky. All those things you can modify for each specific enemy. All right, so now if I play in my overworld, oh, 1 second. Yeah, I'm on the base map. Oh, let's check the game mode settings. So on the base map, we want to make sure that our settings for game mode are over here in the world settings. If you don't have this open, you can go window, world settings. But in the world settings, we want to make sure our game mode is our world game mode. We want to make sure our default pawn class is whatever your main ally is. So mine's VP Joe. I want to make sure our controller is a controller class we made. I called mine VP controller. If I'm going to run into this enemy, it pulls me into this level.